The first 3 weeks of the eruption here in Hawaii, crazy things would happen in the middle of the night. A new fissure would open up and it would threaten a new neighborhood. Thousands of people were evacuated from their homes. I started the Hawaii Tracker Facebook group to help people understand what's going on and get their questions answered.
Hey, how's it going? We're live. This is Fissure 20.
We had hundreds of people all throughout the neighborhoods sending in videos, articles, and images. We spend a lot of time making sure the accurate information gets out.
This is live. There's still lava moving.
They weren't just sharing a story, they were helping their neighbor. If a family was being evacuated, the group would just jump in and help out. It was huge. They were watching out for each other.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming. Thank you for the support from everybody.
As we go through this, we're growing closer together as a community. When tragedies like this strike, you really realize how much you need each other.
We are the Hawaiian Volcano Education and Resilience Institute, HVERI for short. A lot of people know us from the 2018 eruption of Kīlauea in the Lower East Rift Zone. Working under Hawaii Tracker on the Facebook group. Since then, we've been trying to carry on and take the lessons, the hard lessons that were learned during that eruption and try and prepare for the next major disaster that comes to our island.
Yeah, so we do that through two different programs. One is volcano education, and the other part is digital resilience, which we address through online groups on social media. So the way the two programs work together is that the social media networks end up being a distribution pathway for all the information. And having that network in place means we can provide more than just volcano education, but any other preparedness information as well.
What we were working for really came about in the Mauna Loa eruption in 2022. Within hours of that eruption starting, we had the mayor, Mitch Roth, we had USGS HVO Ken Hahn on the stream trying to help flush out a little bit of the ongoing because it's so new. It's completely different from our previous major eruption, which was 2018.
One of the things that Talmadge and I were talking about was how do we deal with social media? It was something we needed to figure out and get right. Our job is to get information to the public and make sure that the public get it as well as possible and as correctly as possible. When Philip and Dane started coming to and live streaming the meetings, it was great because we were reaching more people than we normally would. So when the eruption actually happened, we had this relationship. The interviews we did during the eruption, the most fun ones were the ones with Philip and Dave because they were more relaxed, and we knew we were getting to the local community, and people were asking questions. So those were the best. I think I just want to really give a shout out to those guys and how we worked as a team on this eruption. It really worked out well, and we got to a lot of people we wouldn't have normally gotten.
Aloha, everyone, and welcome to our Hawaiian Volcano Tracker. Today is Thursday, November 13th, 2025. I'm geologist Philip Ong, here with Mr. Dane DuPont and Lua Tori on the back end, and joined by our interpreters, Dano and Carrie. We are with the nonprofit HVERI, Hawaiian Volcano Education and Resilience Institute. So today we're going to talk about Kīlauea's latest episode, number 36, Dane. How has this past week been for you? since that finally
Been
popped off.
busy, but finally happened and was did not disappoint. Other than maybe its duration, another really short one, huh? But we'll talk about that more.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. That's 3 in a row now where they've been pretty short.
Yep.
And furious coming out in great volume. Can you guys hear me all right? Make sure.
Yeah. You're good.
All right. So we'll get Lou in here a little bit later. Both Dane and Lou will contribute some observations to our update today. But anything you want to add before that, Dane?
Yeah, it'll just be interesting to go through and see some of the images and videos that were captured by our communities during this episode. So that's what we'll be doing on the back half. But if you got any questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat, and we'll try and get to them in the Q&A.
All right, thanks, Dane, and thanks to you and to Lou for managing that chat conversation that's always going while we're here giving a presentation as well. All right, so let's get ourselves set up here and get ready for our summary. All right, good. Aloha, everyone. This is our Hawaiian Volcano Summary for November 13th, 2025. Episode 36 of Kīlauea's ongoing summit eruption came and went this past Sunday, November 9th, lasting about 5 hours between 11:15 a.m. and 4:15 p.m. You're seeing here a time lapse from the V1 camera showing that precursory overflows leading to the double fountains from the north and south vent, the south vent peaking higher around 1,200 feet or 360 meters. Let's switch the camera view around to the V3 camera and show you guys the sequence from that point of view. So there's a north vent, both fountains fairly straight up with slight inclination, but more lava coming from the south vent and piling against the side of the caldera, feeding these secondary lava flows that persist longer than the actual fountains themselves. See it here moving through the following night and leading to several rock slides and landslides here that expose the glowing interior of these cooling flows still. We look at this in a thermal view. This is the F1 camera. And rewinding back to Halloween night when we first had the first overflow, over the next 9 days, we have a series of over 180 of these overflows, each one putting out a pulse of new lava onto this southwest part of the crater floor. Until we get to November the 9th, which is the Sunday, at around 11:15 a.m. So that's coming up right here when we have that main outburst. It lasts those quick 5 hours. The flows move for a few hours after the fountain shut off. And that's how that looked on a thermal camera. In a similar view, in the visible spectrum, you see the silver pad of flows that were the overflows at precursory before the big fountains come up. Another thing you see in this view is that there's some weather coming in right at the onset of the fountaining. So depending on your perspective, it may have been hard to get as good a view of this eruption as some previous episodes of it. So moving on, I'll show you guys the B1 camera. So this is down on the caldera floor. You still see some of the weather, but the fountains in the far background, and you see these flows marching across the crater floor, reportedly covering about 80% of the crater floor before they stop moving. One other curiosity visible from the B1 camera, this is a little unusual, is that we've seen rising of the eastern part of the crater, both before, during, and after this latest episode. So it appears that lava is injecting beneath this crust, and that may have something to do with this prolonged onset and longer pauses that we've had for this episode. A quick peek into our current views, the V1 camera and the V3 camera showing both vents still degassing passively between episodes, and the V2 camera showing that socked in weather still continues. On our monitoring instruments, we've seen the rebound of the ground tilt, just like every other episode thus far, suggesting the volcano is recharging for another round. According to the latest USGS daily update this morning, preliminary results for the forecast window suggest episode 37 could occur between November 22nd and 29th. This should say 29th right there. And currently there is glow from both vents overnight as we build to the next episode. We mentioned this was the longest pause of the eruption thus far in 11 months at over 3 weeks, 22 days here, matching this pattern of lengthening pauses between our episodes. And it's also the third in a row that's had about double the discharge rate. So lava coming out roughly twice as fast as anything before that, which is why they're lasting half as long. And our fountain heights are still high. What's not being captured here is that we have 2 different fountains shooting lots of volume out at the same time. And with that big outpouring of lava comes a big outpouring of gas as well. This is a satellite capture of the SO2 cloud that dispersed with a regular trade wind pattern to the southwest, largely into the closed area of Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, but also further offshore right there as well. So we still have low-level emissions coming out between episodes from the volcano. Here is a current VOG forecast. It doesn't seem to be moving here. Let's get this going again. So showing the distribution of that low-level gas from the summit area down to the southwest, to the Kīlauea district for the most part, but also wrapping into South Kona as well. The wet weather does mitigate that somewhat. Our citizen science monitoring network from Purple Air is thus showing only a few spots that have increased SO2 emissions. The ones closer to the volcano may have some component. Otherwise, this could also be influenced by other particulate matter in the air. For earthquakes, it's been pretty quiet the past week overall, but that means there's been a slight reduction of events under the summit and under Pahala, with a very slight increase of the events under the south flank of Kīlauea. Our counts per week are still quite low, and we're still in this low-level background that's been normal since the onset of this eruption in December 2024 at the summit of Kīlauea. Summit's still expanding between every episode and contracting during the outbursts. Just at the summit, we can see here in this green line from the Pu'o'o station in the Middle East Rift that there is no effect of this pressure change on the Middle East Rift, and thus no increased threat to people down in inhabited areas on the rift. Just a final reminder, everything is occurring within Kīlauea Summit, Caldera, Kaluapele, within the crater of Hale'auma'u. And the biggest hazard still remains the gas and tephra, which can fly out of the crater downwind. Right? So that's our summary for this week. And we'll move on to our hazard summary here. And looking at the gases. And so the weather did prevent some really good views of this, but we'll show you what we got. This is the KP camera that's on the south side of Mauna Loa, looking down towards Kīlauea. Kīlauea Summit's down in here. So play this from the sunrise on the 9th. And you see that small plume, followed by a big plume, followed by a bunch of fog socking in the view. So you can't see much. You only see a couple bursts. Or maybe I can trace it out here. This cloud is rising off, something like that. So you see it peeking up. Not great visuals there. We got to get a little bit closer. So here is the K2 camera from the tower at Uekahuna. This is where the Jagger Museum used to sit before being converted into this viewpoint. So here you see that fountain shooting up, a lot of gas going largely up, and you see the water and fog coming across the camera, and not great views here either. But it doesn't look like you see anything solid falling across the camera, like there's no tephra, which we have seen here before, just the rain, it looks like the water. But still you can see there's a height of the fountains peaking above the crater rim there. See, the north vent fountain was a little lower than the south vent fountain, something like that. And so getting a little bit closer still to just see what the wind might have been doing. Now we're at the S2 camera looking almost in the crater where the wind might be a little different. But we're seeing that pattern, trade winds from right to left with all the gas blowing off in that direction there. So here you see that continued movement of the flow after the fountain shut off through the night. One more time just to enjoy that view. So that's the gas. That was the largest hazard. Otherwise, we can focus on looking at the pretty lava in there, right? But the gas went somewhere. It just didn't go towards people, fortunately. We can come to the Mounts project here, which is capturing our satellite SO2 snapshots. So here we are. These are all in Greenwich time, so 10 hours ahead of where we are here, 10 hours ahead of local time. So this was yesterday, and then the day before that, and day before that. And you see there's not a whole lot popping up in these graphs until around the 10th, which was the first day after the eruption episode ended. And there you see trade wind pattern with distribution of low levels of gas to the southwest, south and southwest there. And we got to go back to a couple of snapshots prior there, right on the 9th itself, to capture this big cloud of SO2 that was released. And you can see there, it's blowing also in this trade wind direction. And when we saw from the side of the mountain, that cloud rising up, that's basically all this is the top of the cloud, and it's blown off. And so didn't see the reports of stuff falling on the highway this time. It was all carried upwards in the air and away with the weather. And before that, we can see how we had some concern about these slack winds, variable winds, where we did have some days of VOG pushing north into the Hilo area, right to the northeast. But we were lucky that the trade winds held with that big rain cloud blowing everything off to the side, but also preventing some views. So the VOG measurement and prediction program has this great website that has all kinds of products on here, of which we like to show the VOG dashboard every week. But if you're a person that likes to keep aware of what the VOG conditions are, you can find all kinds of other information on here as well. But turning to the VOG dashboard, there it is. And you see the next couple of days forecast with largely trade winds blowing the emissions down to the southwest and further offshore there. And currently all stations on this site showing in the green. On the green. This one is actually gray. I wonder if it's on offline. This one's to be offline. So we have other maps that pull from these sensors as well. Here is the state of Hawaii air quality data. It's just capturing all these different components of gas and particulate matter. And they are showing green across most of the state, with some suspiciously yellow, higher readings, likely because you're close to a bunch of people over there. Not sure that that's actually related to the volcano there. Right? It could just be vehicle exhaust or industrial pollution or dust or wildfire. All those things could influence this PM 2.5 reading. Elsewhere around the volcano is looking green, but not a whole lot of stations. So we like to switch around between different maps to get the best coverage we can. There's a different version of that. It's just showing the SO2 and PM 2.5 readings from the state Department of Health. Although it looks like it's not wanting to load any of the data now. All right, that's why we have multiple sources. We can keep moving and look at purple air once again. And purple air, you see, has got many sites around volcano, all in a green. Pahala is coming in a little higher. You can see the variation over the day as that plume drifts in and out of the range of the sensor. Yeah, so not only do we see that on purple air, but we have the National Park website, which has stations within their purview. So here it's Kīlauea Summit, everything in the green. Over on the Kona side in the green as well. And down here in South Hawaii, also in the green currently. But you see this narrow plume currently south-southwest. 9 miles an hour. It's not that fast, but yeah, maybe enough. But earlier in the day, it seemed like we had stronger winds, and some of this material was blowing off and sweeping across that direction and reaching the Kahuku area. And if we come to the charts tab of this page, we can see that most of these stations are in a green most of the day, but here's Kahuku unit sulfur dioxide showing several of these spikes into the purples. Hazardous and unhealthy, very unhealthy. When the wind happens to blow that plume right across the area. So it's kind of sweeping across, which means that if you're anywhere in the area, you might also get it, maybe not exactly the same time, but close to those times as the wind is shifting and blowing all that gas around. So that's still the biggest hazard, even between episodes. Right, hazardous, it's actually labeled right there. So, all right, final thing on the gas, we like to look at the big picture globally, and we look at the windy.com SO2 layer here. So if there is that extra red showing the SO2 that entered into the upper atmosphere from that little puff that we saw over here, blew off, has been caught in this big weather system, and there's how it looks in the middle of the ocean. So that's our hazards. We'll move on to our visuals from there. And I'll start off by showing you guys some time lapses before we get Dane and Lou in here with some other contributions as well. So let's start with the F1 camera. And we're going to start back at Halloween, where around 9 p.m. we have that very first overflow. Then we have a little break in the action until Monday morning, the 3rd, when we start having them again. They start alternating between north vent, south vent, and not really consistent, but they are going on for a while. We had many reports, people observing how sluggish lava looked when it was first coming out. And perhaps if there's mixing with lava that's underneath all this crust of all these layers of lava lake, then you can explain how you could have more sluggish lava by mixing this already erupted stuff with the stuff trying to come out. So if it's leaky, then you can have to flush out more stuff, which you do, until finally on the 9th you release enough of that cap, that frothy gas-rich magma bursts out really easily. Apparently, comes out as fast as it wants to there, and within 5 hours it's spent, and we're left with all this hot stuff still moving a little bit on a crater floor. So that's our thermal recap there, a little bit longer, and we won't go quite as long with our visual from the Kīlauea camera. We'll pick it up on the 8th during this latest burst of overflows from the north vent. During the nighttime, we're looking across the whole crater floor here. So there you see that initial overflows followed by the high fountains and the flows with 2 main arms wrapping around the crater floor and then eventually meeting towards the far end of the crater from this perspective. Most of it stops moving by that first night. You see there's a continued flow there in this middle spot that we've seen some collapses and sagging before. So that's interesting because we've wondered if there might be like lava tube or something that can take lava in that area, and that seems like it might support that visual right there. The thing kept draining for longer than everything else. But then ultimately everything comes to a stop right there. So let's look at the V1, the short version as well. So we're starting on the 6th and picking up in the middle of these overflow cycles. You can see some changes of the geometry in the back wall here of the north vent. Reshaping the nozzle one more time. I think you guys might see some more of that coming up. But a lot of these sluggish lava overflows coming out, cooling, sagging before the main outburst on the 9th. Here it comes. See the south vent putting a lot of lava up on the rim and tephra on this growing hill over here. And a north vent putting most of it into the crater itself, feeding that flow that goes along the north side there. So we'll come around to the V3 camera, just these time-lapse versions of them at least. And there you go. Let me put this one on loop here. You can see that all that material flowing still after the fountains shut off. And this area here, you start seeing little flashes. Those are these little rock falls or avalanches with still hot rocks exposed on the inside, falling down, and depending on what moment you're there. you can possibly catch that. So let me pause this and pull it back here just to show you the shape of the fountains again. You can see there's a north vent fountain landing in a crater, and the south vent fountain, you see all this dotted, all this speckled stuff here. All the dark stuff is the tephra flying off onto this big pile on the side, and that's why it keeps sliding down after the fountain shut off. It's where all the material landed up here, and it's now coming back downhill. So those are some of the best views of the V1 and V3 cameras. The V2 looked like this. And if I pull it back, you can see, oh, there we actually could see some overflows early on. There's when the high fountains begin, but at the same time, the fog is moving in and the rain. So that's about all you get from that camera. View is about like that. And if any visitor came to try to see this and stayed on that volcano house side, then may have been treated to similar blockages, we'll call them, right? All this stuff in the way here. So those were the live cameras. Let's show you guys just the sequence of daily shots again. So, well, first let's go to the B1 camera on the backside. So here we have the overflows on the far side of the crater for several days ahead of time. The main fountains sending flows that come across. You see them spreading across this old dark flow here. You see it easier at night. And there is our movement of lava once the fountain is shut off. Continuing, don't really see much through the next day, next night. See a little bit of glow. Let's let it play forward here. There, but it's nothing like that previous night, as you can tell right there. So looking at the snapshots from one image at noon every day, and let's pull it back since episode 35 now and show you guys that full sequence. And we're going to end up looking at that patch over there, but we can also look at the cone area, how it grows and changes. New flows paving the hill gets a little bit taller. You can see material sliding down off of the edge of the crater wall as well. You see some sagging happening in this central area that we've seen it do so before, right in there. But really the biggest change when you look around, nothing on the edges, not over here, but it's this zone right in the middle, right in here. And so maybe try to draw a line around what I see moving upwards with something like this. Goes all the way out to here. So something like that, a patch roughly in that shape there is being lifted upwards over this period of time that in this case is spanning across the eruption. So to try to untangle this a little bit more, I thought I would look first at just the day of the eruption and the days since then. And let's see if this is happening during that eruption. And if you look closely here, you actually can see that there is movement upwards all around this ring, right? This ring of discoloration is showing places the gas can escape because the crust is weak. It's got more cracks, the gas can escape more easily. And then when it comes out, it deposits those minerals along the edges. So that's marking the edge of the weak zone here, where it's discolored with all these mineral deposits from the gas venting. And looking just at during and after the eruption, you can see that the eruption only lasted 5 hours. So we're not seeing just one frame jump. We're seeing continued movement for several days after the eruption is over of lava injecting into this area over here. Right, and it's hard to see exactly, but the edge of the flow that comes from episode 36 is somewhere right in there. It's not as much lava as we saw during previous episodes, where we just thought we've discussed the possibility of maybe it's the weight of those flows coming across as pushing and squeezing stuff upwards. That's still a possibility, but with not as many flows and not as much volume coming as close to this area. On this occasion, I feel like I lean more towards it's getting injected from below through some other pathway over here. Right? And so it's interesting to note this little wing back here closer to the crater wall, and then this central area over here as well, kind of connecting. So to take it one step further, I thought I would take the days between episode 35 and 36 before the lava actually comes out and loop that for you guys. And so you do that, and mostly see not anything changing during that interval of time. So try and look more closely at this zone right in here where these cracks are. Maybe there's slight movement, but it's not very convincing to see it right in there. But if I pull it back to over here, it's subtle, but in here, you actually can see movement of this part of the crater floor rising slightly upwards before lava ever came out of the ground during episode 36. So that's suggesting that lava is injecting into this far side of the crater even before the fountain comes out. And that might be another reason why we're seeing these really long pauses and extra sluggish material available to start to flush out. So that's the BW analysis. And one last take on that is the KW view. Same thing, one image each day. Now I'll go across the whole episode. So before, you see the silver overflows coming out, and then you see the cone growing. And let me scroll it back to this area in the center. There is that central sagging area. You can see it doing that again right there. Down here in the bottom, you mostly see the before and after this flow comes through. You see the landscape change a bit. So that flow edge was something like this. From 36, you can see that stuff in there disappear. And then otherwise, you try to look in this far area. You can see only the lava flow that comes out, cooling and losing a little bit of gas, but you don't see any kind of other injection or settling from here. You got to scroll up to this far side to get to this zone of discoloration. That's doing most of the movement. It's actually right over in here. So from the other camera, it looks like a much bigger area. Just to give you perspective, it's this little section way on that eastern side of the crater floor, and some distance away from the flows, as you can see from this view here. So yeah, that's still the most interesting curiosity is, this potential injection and actually catching some bulging on the camera, which we haven't caught for many episodes now. And I thought we just, before I pass it over to the guys here, just show you one last view live in at the V3 camera, both vents degassing. The V2 still showing. Oh, that's not showing live. I don't know what's going on with that one. It's pointing at the sky maybe, but been very wet up here in the volcano area for a few days now. Here's the V1 finally. All right, Dane, I'll pass it to you for.
All right. Well, thank you, Phil. We'll go ahead and tag in Lou, come in with me, and we'll go through the observations from the different communities and people out there that were on the edge of the caldera watching this whole thing. All right. Thank you, Phil. And boop, boop. There it is. Hey, Lou.
Hey, that was live, Phil. By the way, V2 just kind of shifted from that bronze to the blue look. That V2 cam takes a pummeling way out there.
All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead and take a look at some stuff. So I'm going to go through first post from Made to Hawaii Tracker. So the Hawaii Tracker community over on Facebook. If you're not a member, I encourage you to go over there and sign up. 180,000 members at this point. And a lot of people out there on the edge of the caldera, lava chasers, so to speak. So want to just highlight some of their contributions. First one, we're starting pre-episode 36. So during that, what felt like a week-long wind-up for this eruption. So from Richard here, just shows those glowing vents at night, taken at 4 a.m. on the 5th. Oh, I hit the wrong key.
Then I just dropped the link into the chat for Hawaii Tracker if you guys would like to join.
And this was on the 5th. Build up. We had a lot of events that led up to this final fountaining on Sunday. But this one is from Kelly. Appreciate the contribution there. We have a few from Kelly, who was out there chasing this thing for multiple days. Yeah, we have some good stuff to go through, but this is just, part of the build-ups. Still on November 5th, that same event, we have Ada out there. Nice shot, had some, that south vent. We were talking about this before. It always fakes. Like the north vent's where you get your info from. South vent likes to mess around. Kelly at, again, 4 a.m, right? They're out there all hours. And I thought this was cool, showing some of those overflows and the extent of those. They do get a decent amount of lava out there, right?
We know why it's the best time to be out there at 4, don't we, Dane?
Yeah, because there's this guy over here on the left that does fire dancing, apparently. I think that's the reason.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Yeah, she zooms in on it. Like, wait, what? There's a fire dancer over there?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I thought that was kind of funny. 4 a.m. fire dance. Moving on. I know we got a lot of photos of this one, but the lava hose, reminded me a lot of that one shot down at Kalapana, the iconic lava hose coming out of the cliffs down into the ocean. Remind me of that in a lot of ways, but definitely an interesting. Hadn't seen that one before, really. I hadn't seen that one during any of the episodes.
This was a special one,
right? Just nice little arc to it, steady rate, awesome. This one was from Justin. I appreciate the contributions. Okay. So what this one is, Ada, out there all the time, gets these, made a compilation of all the, not all of them. There was 180 of the things. Right. But a good section of the precursor activity overflows and put them into a little compilation here. I'm going to play for you. Some of that Stromboli activity. Lava flowing down the sides. Significant lava flows. And then finally we get into episode 36 on Sunday at 11 a.m. But awesome little compilation that just shows like a bunch of the buildup. Can make it any bigger? Not easily, no. These verticals are kind of rough, but this one from Kelly again. I like up at the Jagger Museum. We always talk about how the unique view up there and her walking out to the overlook, and a bunch of people there already, but just what it's like to be there on the edge of the volcano with the fountain going right there.
I love the running, the jogging out, right? I know the feeling. Your heart's pumping. You want to get there.
It's exciting. It's loud, right? It's hot.
Especially up there.
Right? All of those things are present. So, this is what you can see over there if you can find the parking, right? That's always the big if on some of these spots. But being up there early allows you to be, have access. It's just you might be waiting a while. Be patient. Pretty cool, huh? All right, let's moving on. Another one from Kelly, very active over at Kenekikoi Overlook, so get to see all of the people, out there taking a look at this, and quite the fountain, quite the view, and a great angle. Looks like it was raining up there. A lot of people in raincoats and stuff like that.
The weather was awful.
Yeah. Moving on, fountain a little bit taller at this point, Sherry. So there's Weather is wet, limited good viewing points. Kahuna is the best we found at that point. So over on that north side of the caldera. And it always, depends. It's weather dependent, not just the rain, but the winds really play a big role.
She got a nice shot of that tephra coming down that wall.
Yeah, this is an awesome shot. Like the angle here is great. And just how the tephra is falling back into the cloud or the fog. Pretty cool. Oh, what happened?
Oh, there we go. There we go.
There it is. That is the tornado. I don't know why it really wants to play music. Sorry. So, yeah, we had what did we call these things? The lavanado, as I heard, volcanado as well. And this one was from Ashley. Also up there for a lot of these more recent episodes, been contributed to Tracker. But I did want to highlight that tornado, that volcanado, lavanado out in the back a little bit more. Some of the lava flowing for you. Lou, I know how you like that.
Oh, it's my favorite.
And then from a ways away, just huge.
Is it lavanado or lavanado?
That's a good question.
Carrie, good luck with that. That's quite the sight right there.
Right. I don't know. There we go.
I mean, I don't know what's more impressive.
Let me make that full screen
There
there.
you go. I don't know what's more impressive, that lavanado or just the massive amount of tephra and plume.
I'm going to go with the tephra and stuff.
Man, it's so much happening.
Like there's so much heat and tephra that, in everything combined just makes this huge. We've seen the smaller ones inside the caldera. I haven't seen one quite this size. Bigger. We're going to have to start rating these things.
Great.
And he was just showing the rain. Not great, but another close up of that vortex. Pretty cool looking. Actually does look like a tornado out there.
Mm-hmm.
And then another one of the fountains from Warren. I appreciate longtime contributor there, Warren Pence. And yeah, moving on. Josh here has another entry. Similar angle and everything, just a little bit different shot. Really cool, though. A lot of people saw that one. And a lot of similar angles. If you were over on the other side of the caldera, the Ue Kahuna area, I don't think you would have an angle to see it, really.
I don't think you would have, no.
Only from Kenekekoe would you have this angle to really get that shot. Yep, so this one was from Josh. Appreciate the contributions there. One from Jason Ortiz or Orbits or Bolt. Kīlauea. So this is another compilation. And this is showing the end of the activity up there. When 3:38, the north vent just stopped. And then ended at 4:16.
Yeah, the north vent shut down fast, but the south vent, I didn't quite like the way it was kind of presented, that the south vent shut off as fast or abruptly, because we tracked that south vent taking about an hour to completely drop down. It took its time.
Yeah, the north vent just kind of went
it was over.
Yeah. All right, moving on. This one was from Nathan, who previously had done a photo comparison looking at prior to the episodes and the current at that time on how much the lava levels raised, just to give a point of reference. So now he's updating it. This is December 28th. And then it's on the no, that's today, November, or it was 2 days ago. You can see that line is now there.
Mm-hmm. Massive amount.
So
right?
just to show that again, from here to there, and then this line he has right there. So pretty cool work. It's always takes some time to track that kind of stuff. So I wanted to sneak that in, and longtime contributor here, Nathan. So appreciate that, and that gets me to the end of my segment. Lou,
all right,
roll community corner first, or
no? We have some more observations.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's get rid of yours here, and we're gonna drop mine up here. You have images. I have actual footage, which is kind of cool because it's some footage of everybody that's walking out there. And I was talking about how they're jogging, or just the hurrying, fasting movement of everybody getting out there. This is from David Finley from Australia. I went out to Fissure 8 with him. He's from Australia. Good guy. Just recently caught that comet out there. There's Sloan had put this one in here. You had the image of this. Here's the actual footage of it. Dropped over on our Discord. Look at that. Just tephra everywhere up there.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect view spot right there. Wouldn't have to venture into the park. Murdoch out there. These are some of the views you can get from on the ground. Sometimes we forget that there's pretty much viewing everywhere in all the open areas. Not the out of bounds, but the actual legitimate viewing areas. Plenty of places. There's another shot of that. That was the highlight there. And here's where I wanted Phil to jump in here, because this is what I was talking about. And throw him. Let's grab Phil. All right, Phil. So foreground in front of the south vent. Watch this develop right there. What do we call this? Everybody, not everybody. A lot of people during the episode was calling that a new vent starting up. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's I suppose technically it could be a new vent, or some other opening of the same south vent. It's similar to what we're seeing over the north vent side, right? Where we saw it's not like one particular hole that the lava is coming out of. It's coming out through that whole network of cracks, and if it can use that one hole efficiently, then it will. But if it has to squeeze out of a crack up on a side, it'll do that also. And really, at the height of the pressure is when you see that, right? That is the kind of extra exit points. We saw one of those by the north vent during the last episode that came up like similar to that as well.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I was going with it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because like you and I talked before, there's so many cracks in the ground. It's gonna push. It's gonna find a spot to come out. Not necessarily a new vent. It just there was so much pressure.
I mean, yeah. Think of it this way, right? I mean, the actual original hole that was putting out lava in these vents is way below the ground level now, right? So all the stuff that's above has been built up around the hole, and it's almost, I don't know. I kind of imagine like when you have like a garden hose that you like leave it on in the wintertime so your stuff doesn't freeze or something, right? But then by the end of winter, it's got this big, long like icicle that grows off the end of the thing, like almost like a tube, so it's kind of it extends itself, and then any crack on that, I mean, that thing is made of the actual material, like the actual, in our case, it's hardened rock, or whether it's ice, what have you, right? That rock is going to be cracked, and so it's going to leak out everywhere along that, right? It's not like it got like a metal shaft where it can always stay with inside of that thing, and like a barrel of a gun or something, right? It's not like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's made of rock, so it's just gonna leak out everywhere it can, and the more that pile of rock above it grows, then the more it's gonna want to squirt out the sides rather than up and through, because it's the intact coherent part that's holding the pressure is still way down below there. And so once it gets to some shallow depth, it's just gonna come out wherever it can. We've described before, like almost like different fingers off of a blade. So like there's a common body below. It's just like feeding up everywhere it can through whatever little pathway it can, or all at the same time. It has to.
So this is a shot here while Phil was talking. I took out the fountains because everybody focuses on the fountains and kind of misses what else is going on. And you guys know me, I like what's happening around the floor. And this was just kind of a falls area that I wanted to zoom in on. Definitely shows the volume that was coming out. You can see it was flowing. Gas kind of slowed down a little bit. The push stopped, and then here it came again. And it did this over and over and over. When I went back and watched the 5 hours, it was nonstop. Start, stop, start, stop.
What's hard is there's no scale in there, right? It's hard to imagine if you actually were trying to stand by it, right? That might be like a 10-foot wall of lava coming at you.
Oh yeah. It
just looks like a little, like a spill from your shower or something, and it looks moving so fluid and sped up like this. But that's a big feature.
Mm-hmm.
Makes it more impressive. How many layers of that are piled on each other.
And then here's just a shot, just a quick one from the V1.
Yeah, you see when it was starting up, it was really spraying every direction, right? Yeah, it's almost like it's forcing that nozzle to like whatever shape it has.
You can see it right there, that nozzle, right there. You can see that nozzle. Mm-hmm.
It's like spraying, towards us and to the left, behind us and to the right, and it's been us going almost like in a clover pattern. And finally, there at the end, they're actually right into one big stream. That's really cool. Yeah, and that nozzle is being built not just by the fountains, but by all these 180 overflows that are happening in between them too, or changing things.
I wanted to show this one also because everybody has been watching the Tephra Mountain back behind there grow, and this angle shows how much it was just nonstop for 5 hours, just piling on top, growing and growing and growing. The Tephra was relentless on this one area.
That's really interesting. You see that like the south vent fountain is producing a lot more dark cloud than the one in the front, right? Mm-hmm. So we know it's a higher fountain, so maybe it's making more lava. But I don't think that's all of it. I think it's actually because it's landing on all the other tephra as well, and smashing each other in the air. It's basically pulverizing itself. It's smashing bits of lava into smaller bits of lava, and that creates a bunch of dust, I think, too. And so I think that's getting caught in that big thermal as well. You see that from several different angles and shots you've shown so far.
This episode was unique compared to some of the others recently, is that we had a good 12 hour. The overnight view was amazing. This whole area was lit up pretty good. We have this, and then we have out of the V3 camera as well. And I have one more piece in here for us. There is right here is the comet that came down, or the break off of the meteor. There's a lot of different conversations on this one here on what it actually was. Right there. And then as USGS had in their, HVO had in their update this morning, the several avalanches that occurred after episode 37 or 36. No, I'm getting it wrong. I just said this morning too. So there we go. Do I have any more in here? I think that is it. That is it for observations.
Awesome. Epic, Lou, and thanks to you too, Dane. Yeah, great to have you guys collecting that, and lots of little details that we might otherwise miss.
Right on. Dane, you want to jump back in and we'll go through Community Corner?
All right, let's do it.
All right. Should be in there. Oh, not that one. How about this one? All right. I'm going to make this quick tonight. Here we go. All right. So the park is still open up top. Down below at the Kahuku unit, still closed. Not because of the government shutdown, but because they are evaluating and ensuring trail safety. Apparently, this is on their website today. So know that if you're still trying to get into the Kahuku unit, it's closed. Oh, I forgot to check. Oh, we got Dano. Oh, buddy. All right. Oh. All right. And we have a lot of storms happening around the island right now. For those of you that don't know, we have a public safety power shutoff. Recommend going and check that out. It's how we prevent wildfires here. So there is a lot of information. Maui County, Hawaii Island County, and Oahu also have it going on. So pay attention. You can go to their websites and check it all out. We've had power shut down, Dane, a couple times in the last 24 hours in different locations, right? We had a lot of weather going on.
Yeah, and it's amazing how wet it is over here and how dry it is over there. But yeah, certain parts of the island still droughty. Still, I mean, when we went to Kona the other day, we were commenting about how dry certain spots looked. So,
well, we were driving over during the wildfire that was going on.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I did see people asking about updates, and the last update I had about with that was at 60% contained. I don't know if Dane, if you have another update on that or not.
I do not on hand, but I heard that the rain did help out up there, the recent rains. So, and also help with the conditions in terms of with the smoke and stuff like that.
Good deal. Here's a way to get notified. Text Hawaii alerts to 888-777. You can also scan those fancy QR codes right there for more information. And the lava viewing is everywhere. This is actually just the other day. This is after the episode 36, just to see people are still going out there. There's still a lot to see, even though lava's not in the air. You can head through the main gate and drive up to the maybe open Welcome Center at KMC. The roundabout is actually working really well, but there is a lot of traffic. Take it slow. There is the KMC. Look for that flag. You can park there. Your best bet for parking is going to be around there and hike in. You're going to find out in just a minute when I get to that slide. Volcano House is open. I don't know who was talking about it not being open. It has not closed. You can get water in there. You can get food in there. You can warm up by the fire in there. Volcano House is open. There are your viewing areas. I had a comment come in to me on where to view, and this wasn't really specific and detailed, and I did this intentionally, big eyes all the way around, because I'm kind of trying to emphasize that viewing is all over. Follow the trail around until you can see it. Clear the bushes and you should be good from Waldron's Ledge all the way up to, as Dane was showing, he had the shots of Oahu. Let Dano catch up here. Good. There's a shot I took from inside my truck. And here is a more recent episode 36 image given to us by David, buddy of mine. One is, it's the same, just on same road, same time, facing different directions. You can see that parking is extremely difficult. So if parking lot is full when you arrive, choose a new destination or try another time of day. This is the park's recommendations. And they also recommend, while visiting Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, please park responsibly in designated parking stalls. Dane, are these designated parking stalls?
Looks close enough, right?
Pretty close. I see they're inside the white line.
That's a plus, even though they're I don't even know where this is. Chain of Craters somewhere, yeah.
This is just up from Chain of Craters. Take a look at the arrow. Look at is that Scotch tape and wire? I think it is. David didn't know that. He didn't know that when he took this picture. I kind of caught it and pointed out, but I looked down there and I was that there's Scotch tape. Whatever works, right?
Yeah.
Park legally and
Aftermarket.
responsibly. All right, exposure is no joke. Not only do we have the sun and the wind, we've got the rain and the cold going on. So safety is your responsibility as per NPS. Bring your own water. Stay hydrated in the park. The new filling bottle station is not open. Limited options up there, so plan ahead. Closures are still out there. They'll be open soon. There's no new information. They have not been updating for several weeks now. So just know that there are closures, and you'll know the closures by the orange cones most likely. We have some events coming up. It is the Pacific Tsunami Museum Remembering Halape. And this is Saturday, November 29th. Doors open at 10. Cindy Preller down there will be giving a presentation, as well as many others. This will be an event you won't want to miss. I recommend going to this. This is on November 29th. And if you are in Waimea tonight, when we get done with this live stream, you can head over and listen to astronaut and astronomer John Mace Grunsfield at 7 p.m. at the Kahilu Theater at 7 o'clock. And coming up, I don't know if you have your tickets already, but it's almost that time for the Big Island Press Club Torch of Light. That's December 13th. And we're working on the parade eventually, Dane. And this is our end of the year fundraiser going on. We are halfway there. And we would love it if you would help us out, get to that goal of 5,000. Supports our volcano education, our AI, our digital resilience training, our youth leadership programs. You can donate at hveri.org/donate. And you can sign up for our eruption notification. We send out the email when we feel that the episode has started, as well as you can get our newsletter at hveri.org/subscribe. Thank you. And I think that wraps it up. Did I miss anything?
I don't think so. You want to roll your...
Yep, I think we're good. There we go.
So yeah, I'd like to thank the VIVI Grant Program for helping fund this program, as well as the county's support for our other programs, our digital resilience and youth development, as well as everybody that tuned in today, as well as the donations that we get over on hveri.org/donate. That is where we take donations. We also do have a fundraiser through YouTube running over on the YouTube. So if you want to donate there, perfectly fine. But yeah, we want to thank the donators that we have today. We had a few people come through. It was Nancy with a $100 donation over on the website. I appreciate that one, Nancy, as well as a $20 donation from Robin. I appreciate that support there. And then everybody tuning in today, like, subscriptions, the shares, all that stuff does help. And with that, I think we're ready for the back half with
Let's do
Phil. All right. Bye, Lou. All right. Welcome back, Phil.
All right. Thank you. Let's get our presentation switched here. And we're going to throw in Volcano Watch. And right now it's just hot off the press. Just released on this first day of work for the government again, I guess. They've managed to put out some content today. So this is just catching up on Kīlauea, 36 episodes and counting. And USGS is just recapping 34, 35, and 36 since they've been unable to speak to us about it for a while. So that's basically, won't go back over the statistics of the episodes here, but we can see that they have had to deal with fallout on a highway, as well as some stations getting completely buried in this new tephra. So look at the hole these guys are in. It's not, you can see this is not going to last very long. So they also mention here the fist-size tephra deposited on a highway, prompting the hazard message from Civil Defense. So just quick touching base here on a volcano watch that's been released, and we'll go on to our Kīlauea monitoring, and we'll start with the next new release, which is just hot off the press as well. Episodes 34 to 36, video chronology from the USGS. They've released a new composite here with all of the episodes, 1 through 36 here, as well as showing that high fountain from episode 34. Let's see how high the lava is shooting up there. And actually you can see it looks like the glowing tephra on the crater rim here, inland from the edge quite a ways. There's 35, and the capture from the webcam with that big flow across the crater floor, the KW camera. And here they are actually doing the digging. Look at that, right? So
Are those snow shovels?
It looks like it is a snow shovel, doesn't it?
Right, might as well.
Yeah, I think if I come back to the volcano watch, I think it does mention in here when they're digging things out, that they actually had some camera, somewhere it's written in here, camera equipment part here in a crater on a crater partially melted. Solar panels powering several stations downwind are broken, and of course they're all buried in there too, right? The rim of Halema'uma'u grew 30 feet just during episode 36 alone, and altogether the new cone has grown to about 138 feet, 42 meters above the crater rim's previous surface there. Yeah, so gives us some idea when we see this kind of image of these guys digging out this equipment, right? How would you even know where it was if there wasn't a mass sticking out? I mean, almost lost it in the entire field there. And yeah, see quite the challenge. And here's 36 with that spray getting caught on in that area of fallout. And there's Uikahuna Overlook, people looking at the double fountains. Some telephoto views. There they are with the video camera, getting high definition video. And here's where they walk out on the broken crater rim drive that was damaged in 2018. See the stuff falling on the road itself, lots of Pele's hair and these little clumps, these little golden clumps, almost like a natural fiberglass. And whenever they come driving through again, you can see all the crunchy stuff gets flattened by the Jeep and shows where the road is supposed to be, but it also shows how loose and crunchy this stuff actually is, right? And we've seen some of that before. There's one of their buckets that's collecting this material, which they then go and empty out and take the sample for chemical analysis for the most part. So that's our photo release from today. One of the other things that they're monitoring. And otherwise, take a quick peek into their timeline here, just to see if they have had a chance to update this since it was shut down before. Now we have all the way through episode 36 listed on our table on our timeline at the USGS. So rewinding about a week to some of these text updates, I'll give you guys just a few excerpts here. So back to last week, Friday, we were still waiting for the episode, and we had seen overflows come and then stop. So they resumed at that point, Friday night, to coming to Saturday, continuing to spill over. We'll keep it moving forward there to Sunday, where they note that overflows are getting frequent and lasting up to 2 hours in that area. And by that point, they're up to 170 overflow events. And they're tracking 2/3 of them from the north vent, which was more productive in the ramp up right there. Then coming to, so what was that? That was the the Sunday morning daily update right there. So coming to Sunday afternoon or late morning here, we have the first volcanic activity notice announcing the start of the episode, 11:15 a.m. They note that at that point, 180 overflow drain back events. And this activity notice is paired with an aviation notice, which says much of the same thing, but warns of the possibility of eruptive plumes that can reach 20,000 feet above the ground level. So this is really for the aircraft in the area. And that was what we saw until 4 p.m. when we saw another pair of activity notice and aviation notice noting the end of the effusion from the south vent at 4:16, showing the north vent stopping at 3:38, a little bit earlier, right? They note that the south vent dropped from 1,000 to 500 feet at 3:48 p.m., held steady, slowly declined, and eventually stopped, ultimately at 4:16, according to their estimation there. At this point in time, when the episode has just ended, they say that the fountain maximum was around 1,100 feet, and you're looking at 8 to 9 million cubic meters of lava. So that's the notice, and here's the aviation one. And it takes a couple of days, so we get to Monday, and they note that there's still glow. Flows keep moving after the end of the eruption on a crater floor and a steep slopes behind the vents. And I'm coming to Tuesday's update. Whoop, nope, did not want to click that. Tuesday's daily update. They noting we're still recovering. Not enough data to really see how soon things are going to come. But they do note here, they have revised their maximum fountain heights using more accurate measurements. And so the actual better number here is 1,200 feet, 360 meters from the north vent, or from the south vent, and the north vent reaching a little less at 750 feet, 230 meters. So those are the official statistics. They note the volume at the lower end of the range at 8 million cubic meters instead of 9, and still noting around 500 cubic meters per second, although this may also be a higher estimate now that they have revised things downwards. 80% of the crater floor covered is the final stats for that eruption, episode 36. So since then, we've just noted continued glow, bursts of rock fall causing minor glow, and very preliminary results suggesting episode 37 could occur between November 22nd and the 30th. So think of that as just really that last week of November. You're giving it an 8-day window right there. We come to today's update. It says November 22nd to 9th. So you got to presume that should say the 29th, right? And not be December 9th, but actually one day off the previous day's estimate. Still the last week of November. And this is still an early forecast. Remember that last interval we had 1 week delay because once we got to that threshold, we had it slow down and kind of flatten and take its time. And so that's still possible that once we get to that last week, remember that we have further delay depending on other dynamics of the eruption. So that's where we are today. Still glowing from both vents, and only a few spots of incandescence left around the vents, and avalanches of material appear to have stopped. So from that, a little bit of data, we're using that, we can update our plots here. So here's our maximum fountain height by episode. And you can see that our record was our last episode, 35. 36 is not quite as high, but it's still in this high fountain range above 1,000 feet that we've had the last 3 episodes in. And remember, even some of these lower values are just a shape of the nozzle of fountain coming out. In this case, they were inclined like an arc at 30 degrees rather than shooting straight up in the air. So some of that is a little artificial as far as it looking lower than before, right? So that's fountain heights. Pause lengths, here is 22.3, the longest pause between episodes thus far, over 3 weeks of the eruption. You can see it's been lengthening. It's the longest one thus far, but it's part of this population of the longest ones of the whole eruption over the last 7 or so. right? And so with that really short duration, and here we are, one of the shortest durations as well, at 36 there, compared to our really long early ones, combined with the volume being more or less in the same ballpark. Really, you can see about these last 7 are about in the same average, more or less, right? Around this 8, sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's 6, in that range right there. So you have some lava coming out. It has to come out, and it's coming out in half the time. It's got to come out twice as fast. And that's where you see these discharge rates still showing these very high values. My initial calculation based on 8 million exactly cubic meters puts it around halfway between 4 and 500 here. But, there's some error and they're rounding things off. So somewhere in a range here, somewhere in this area over here is the discharge rate for both vents going at the same time on full blast, which is what we've seen for the last 3 times. So really fascinating to see that. Something obviously has changed and stayed changed. And we'll see how long we can keep this up, right? With especially with these long durations, because long pauses, I should say, because one thing that we saw in the past, before 2018, before this modern era of summit episodes, is that if you have the vents pause for long enough, they can start to close off, and you can force, through buildup of pressure, some new dynamic to occur, right? So we don't know that's going to be the case. We've managed to keep these vents open for almost 11 months already. So not to say that it will change, but it's something to keep an eye on. Is will it change, just based on the lengthening gap between episodes and what that causes. So wrapping up our monitoring here, first looking at the INSAR data from the Mounts project. We have a couple of new images released here. So let me take you guys through these. This one is released on the 12th, and going back 5 days prior to that. So this is capturing episode 36. And there's kind of a lot going on here with all these colors, but to start, looking at the speckled material on the right side, this is all the forests and trees. But over here on the center and bottom, this is actually showing us the coverage of the lava flow, where it made the ground rougher, and then the fallout of tephra and where that dispersed on the landscape. So you can see it actually went more southwest than it went west, and that kept it away from people, and with the highway running off in that direction over there, right? So you can see it stayed parallel and far away, and didn't really impact people with fallout very much. So that's what the rough texture means. Otherwise, we look for these fringes, these almost like rainbow patterns, right, from along this spectrum here. And we've noted that the center of our action is right in here, this central east part of the caldera. So if we look at the pattern of colors going in that direction, blue to pink to red, blue to pink to red is actually moving away from the satellite. So this is all capturing the deflation of the ground around this main reservoir under the summit as episode discharged. So that's the biggest, strongest signal. You see the most range of colors right through there. But you also see a couple other things going on here, right? You see over here like a orange to pink to blue, orange to pink to blue towards the radar. So while this is dropping down, this is rising up. Actually, you look at blue to green, this is rising up. And you look at pink to blue, this is also rising up. So it's almost like it's all crinkled, right? One part's dropping down and all the other edges that are attached to it are having a crinkle and wiggle, and they bulge up a little bit in all these other areas around, something like that. Which, if that's happening more so than before, then you can imagine that there's more pressure on all sides of the summit where things aren't loose to just wiggle however they want to. They're actually getting caught and crinkled more so than before. So as time goes on, we expect more pressure, the summit to lock in. At some point, we expect lava to push back into one of the rift zones. Not sure when that'll happen, but as we have more gap between episodes, more pressure building between episodes, then these are things to start looking at, to be monitoring and aware of, so that when things change, we can catch it. So that's our most recent snapshot. Looking at the one that's released, there's another image released of this INSAR. This was released on the 6th, going back to the 31st. So this is just during a precursor activity. And you also see, similar to before, this is the image from the period before that, from the 31st back to the 25th, where we saw, it looked like remobilization, like the movement of some of the piles of tephra, maybe through wind or settling. You can see it there and there, very similar distribution. When I pull it to the most current one, you see it's actually offset. So put the same scale and size right there. Right, it's contained. Whoops, wrong button. It's contained down in here. Whereas these earlier ones, you can see they spread further off in that direction there. And so this is capturing the inflation at the center, and then here you see it holding steady at that, not really inflating or deflating or waiting for the episode to come, and then finally the deflation coming right there. So that's our INSAR imagery. I'm going to step through our other data fairly quickly. So our laser rangefinder for the last month, showing another lava flow stacked on a crater floor. In this case, it's only about 2 meters where this laser is pointing, compared to the last time this one caught something like 6 meters. It's just all about where the flow happens to cover. But in this case, it was a little thinner at 2 meters. It's still added to the crater floor right there. Our long-term 1 month tilt. So you see there's that recovery from after 35 coming up to 36. Fast at first and then flattening out, and then especially this very end of it where it seemed to stall a bit, and this was our week of waiting for it to come. And then here is the drop with 36 and the recovery since then, right? And so you can see at this rate, it's going to take a while, at least another week, if not a couple weeks, to come back to some threshold near here. And then if it keeps going, we can hit it sooner. If it turns over, then it can extend even longer again. So that's the summit station in blue at Wikahuna, and green, the East Rift Zone, showing no such effect. And Sand Hill Station, similar pattern. Our earthquake counts, average background is 30. So actually they've gone down a little bit in the past few days as far as total numbers, but you see the red line, I see the energy is going up. We're getting less events, but they're on average a little bit bigger. And if we look closely, this is actually in a band of these yellows. When we look at the map, that turns out to be the south flank events. Let's see where my map is. Pull it back up here. Here's my map for the last week. And here are all those larger yellow dots, the south flank events here. So showing a little bit more action here. And this is why it's also worth thinking about the pressure building at the summit and how it might be pushing the flank and eventually want to open the rift zone, which it's not there yet. Hopefully it'll take a while, but we'll be watching. So continuing with our data down here below for the last 3 months, there's our pattern. We're just in this steady release pressure through the episode, recover it in between, release and recover. So let's keep going on that. And here's the last almost 11 months now of this pattern. And at a glance, you can see how the teeth are getting bigger and wider down here at the right side of the graph, showing how our episodes are lengthening, dropping more, relieving more pressure all at once, which means more lava getting out at the same time. And you see that, even though it looks steady, there have been these changes in the pattern. And so as it extends, we'll watch and wait to see what comes next. So lava depth, there it is for the year. And earthquakes for the year, still at this long-term low background. And we've shown a GPS at the summit, extending and contracting as before. There's nothing really new there. Still no data coming in from Pool. And yeah, I'll stop the monitoring signals there. Just to make sure we touch base on the earthquakes before we sign off here. So our recent earthquakes for the last week here, plotted by depth, with the blues being deep and the reds shallower. You see lots of blues in the Pahala zone. And here's our south flank Kīlauea population. And then we also have continuing events, not just under Kīlauea Summit, but in this flank of Mauna Loa that's between Mauna Loa Summit and Kīlauea Summit, where we've seen this interaction of pressure between the two volcanoes. So that's another signal that we get that the volcano is pressurizing more to summit there. And of course, we know that Mauna Loa is filling with magma and has its own population of earthquakes. And so it's pushing back. That's the interaction we're talking about there, as they both try to fill and pressurize and have to slide past each other in some fashion or push on each other. So, okay, other events are in the background offshore there. And looking at them by size over the last 7 days, the largest was a 2.5 on the south flank event itself right there. Zoom in a bit, right there, 2.5. The other 2.5, looks like that one, no, that just happened. I know, yeah, these two 2.5s here on the south flank, both on the 11th, and then 2.4 Pahala and downwards from there. So that is our fairly mild earthquake report for the week. And since we talked about Mauna Loa briefly and we're talking about it filling, it's just worth looking once again at the signals from there. And if anything, we can look at the 1 month tilt and say we have some longer term cycle, and maybe we had some extra pulse of magma in there that caused a little flurry of earthquakes, especially on the second here. There they are in yellow. And if we come to our map down here, we can see that those are the events that happened just north of the summit. These are the ones under the summit, shallower, but that's for the last month. For the last week, you can see it's quieted back down, and we still have summit events ongoing at a low rate, showing magma still filling and adjustments there, but it's not anything imminently coming here, right? It doesn't look like we've seen some of the maps in the past where it's obscuring all the features, and all you see is the colors of the earthquakes. So. We do know that the summit is extending north and south across the summit caldera at Mauna Loa, and generally rising. Looks like maybe it's a little bit of a stalling, but some little wiggles happening here, but generally the volcano is still filling with magma and adjusting and spreading as expected. So that is our earthquake and Mauna Loa update for the week. And
All right.
Questions, guys? Some discussion?
Yeah. I don't know if you want to queue it up while we're sitting here, but I did drop a link. USGS apparently put out a video that went around with the volcano watch today, just them out there in the tephra, and I feel like it shows a little bit more of what it's like than the static images.
Yeah, let me see if I can get this on the right screen here.
There you go.
I think I missed some of there. So there they are. Let's put us back on the.
As soon as I saw that shot, I was like, those air filters better get cleaned often on those trucks. They're going out there with full respirators, not just N95s, but full face respirators.
You got to imagine some of that glass dust getting in your eye. That's like,
right. And what are you going to do? Wear some swimming goggles, like, and an N95, and just get out the respirators at that point.
Yeah, especially if you got to crawl under the panel and start unscrewing stuff like that, right? I mean, that's right. You have to unbury that thing, or this must be new, right? The rest must be taking off the old ones and screwing on new ones.
Looks like it. I mean, those look like broken panels there to me.
Yeah. Yep, they have a good tire maintenance plan too. Right. Anyways,
well, we got a few questions here for you. So Chris Olsby asked, how wide do you think the north vent hole is now?
Oh, that's a great question. I have no idea. What did we hear before? It was something like 30 feet across.
Yeah, 50 maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's the same.
I would guess it's about the same, right? Because it seems like it reforms, every eruption,
right?
Every episode of eruption. So whatever dynamic that is, I'd imagine it's similar. I'd guess it's pretty similar, 30, 50 feet, somewhere in there.
All right. Thank you, Chris.
Just a guess, though. Good question, Chris. We'll look for that. Once USGS starts writing things down again, we can posting photographs and captions. We can start looking for those kind of details and share them with you guys as well.
I think the other ones we kind of talked about already. Hugh asked, did you guys notice the two little fountains in front and to the right of the south that burst out right as the high fountain began? I think that's what you and Lou were discussing.
Yeah, pretty cool. Yeah, it seems like we have one almost every time from somewhere. There's something unusual. And some little leakage.
Right. Finding a spot to come up that's slightly easier. So the last one I have is from Jari, and the intrusion was interesting, like in episode 31, but it looks like it wasn't strong enough. That's maybe why we didn't have the small fissure this time. But I think that it's not a fissure; it's more, a crack, as you were saying.
Yeah. So, but episode 30 did have a fissure that went up the south wall, right? I think that's what you're referring to there, right? So, and yeah, there have been injections of lava under the crust as well in other episodes, but we haven't had them for several episodes now, which is why I'm kind of wondering, keeping track of it and keep looking. We saw a lot of that earlier on, in the first however many months of eruption, and then it seems to come and go. And for lack of any better indicator, that's something that I'm looking at as how connected is that conduit to all the gunk that's in the crater that's been erupted and is degassed and it's got more crystal rich. That stuff that you can mix with it to cause your precursory flows, right? So if you have, let's imagine your conduit and all that stuff from the old lake is just draining in there, like all of it that you erupted before, then it's going to take a while to clear it all back out. You're almost going to have two eruptions in one. So if I see the floor bulging, then I know the lava magma can get in there. Maybe it can get out of there also. Maybe that's a proxy for how connected it is. So that's why it's a fascinating thing to look at. And if it's more connected, how would that affect the ramp up, the fountains themselves, all those dynamics? And we're just kind of trying to imagine what's happening underground there. But that's part of learning is coming up with some ideas and understanding how these things work. And our ultimate goal is that we can all be a little bit more savvy when something does happen in our neighborhoods, and we don't have to worry about what is going on and why it's going on. We can all focus on how do we prepare ourselves for it and stay safe during any kind of hazardous event. So that is our mission. That's why we're doing this.
All right. Well, I think that gets us through all the questions I had lined up. We managed to sneak in that volcano watch too. So next Thursday, 5 p.m.
Sounds good. Yeah. Thank you, Dane. Thank you, Lou. Thank you to our ASL interpreters, as always, Dano and Carrie, and all of our supporters. If you made it all the way to the end, and then we really appreciate your support. And yeah, we'll catch up on what's happening since 36 next week. Seems like we have some time to take, right? And we're on a kind of 2-week cycle at least now, so we'll have time to catch up on what's happening leading up to 37 next week.
Right.
So
sounds good.
Right. Until next week, from our nonprofit HVERI, the Hawaiian Volcano Education and Resilience Institute, for Lou Atori, Dane DuPont, our ASL interpreters, I'm geologist Philip Ong. Aloha, everybody. Until next week.